When you started this process of writing this book, what was then in your mind sort of the initial goal or purpose of doing so?
I started writing Hunton when my mother was in the middle of a long dementia journey. And I started writing really just to kind of hold on to her with words. I was aware that she was changing, and I wanted to remind myself of what was beautiful and funny about her, and the stories that she told, and the things I would want to remember for myself. So it began really as a diary, a sort of conversation with her in my head. And really it was only gradually that I began to think, perhaps I should share some of this, because I began to realise that this was not just one little family tragedy I was in the middle of, that this was affecting thousands of people, and indeed millions of people around the world. And I began to use the journalistic part of my brain to ask questions, to find out what it was all about, what was happening physiologically, what was happening socially, why it was that our society was so badly geared up to look after people like my mother. And so what started as a little personal diary really became in the way a sort of campaigning document that is part memoir and part a sort of credo about what I believe about human personhood and the preciousness of the individual, and why we need to care for the frailest people in our midst as if they were the precious individuals that they are.
And the result, as you say, is this public, very public book, Hunton Minningarna, Where Memories Go. It's gotten extremely good reviews. It's well written, the topic is urgent, but why do you think it has gotten people's attention to the extent that it has?
I think it's got attention because it is speaking to so many people who are in the same place. This is something that we have not talked about as a society, certainly in Britain, but I think it's also the same in Iceland. I think people are living for longer and longer, and we haven't realised that in time, that is bringing with it enormous problems, because dementia, which consists of Alzheimer's disease and lots of other kinds of brain conditions, is something that the risk of it increases with old age. We haven't realised that, and so families have kind of struggled on their own with gradually feeling that they're losing somebody that they love, not knowing who to talk to about it, not feeling that people are beginning to shun them and not talk to them, getting embarrassed about their behaviour, not knowing best how to understand this behaviour, wanting so desperately to hold on to the person that they were and not understanding or not knowing how best to care for the person that they're becoming. All these things, and they hadn't been talked about. And I think what my book has done is simply to talk, to say, here is my situation. It's not the same for everybody, but it's similar to a lot of people. And I think also healthcare professionals have found in the book a way inside the people that they're treating, because it's sometimes hard for people who are caring for those with dementia to know what's going on inside their heads. And my book tries to do that, and not just inside my mother's head, but inside the rest of the family.
I'm sure a lot of the people that come to your lectures have a lot of questions for you. What are these questions? What do people want to know about the disease, about dementia?
I was asked about the film Still Alice, and to what extent my mother was like that experience, and I was pointing out there that the lady at the centre of Still Alice had early onset Alzheimer's, which is a slightly different genetic form, and most people are older. I was asked about the experience that my mother had in hospital in Britain 2 different hospitals, one in London and one in Glasgow, and how difficult it was for the family to feel excluded at exactly the point where our mother needed us most, and how different it is if you have a child. And I don't know what it's like here, but in Britain, if you have a child that's ill, you go there and you stay with that child as long as you possibly can. And it was like leaving a precious child when we left my mother, knowing that she was frightened and crying and not knowing where she was. And when we came back in the morning, her mind had almost completely gone with a condition called delirium that, again, people don't understand. So that was something we were talking about, and how things might be made better. And my message always when I'm speaking is really quite simple. It's just to say that a person is a person. They're a person right to the very end of their lives. They don't, through dementia, just become sort of empty shells. There is something inside there going on, and that we as a society and we as individuals, individual members of that society, have a duty to connect with the person and to bring out what is there.
The title of your lecture here, Why Dementia Changes Everything, it's the same as the subtitle of your book. Is there a short answer to that question?
It changes everything within a family in ways that you cannot possibly imagine unless you've been there. It changes your priorities. It changes some things for the good. I mean, it changes, of course, there's a mounting toll of losses. Losses of personality, losses of cognition, losses of all sorts of things in the person that you love. It also, if you allow it to, can change your perception of what is important in life and how important it is to use the time that you have with somebody to enjoy happiness in the moment, all that sort of thing. So it changes an enormous amount individually, but I also wanted with that subtitle to get across the fact that it changes everything for society as well, because this is something that affects everybody. Even if it doesn't affect you or your family yourselves, it will affect where your taxis go to pay for the care for people, because this is, 1 in 3 people at the moment over 65 are dying with this. 1 in 3. By the time you get there, it may well be down to 1 in 2 for all I know. It's because this thing, the longer we live, the worse it is, and it must change everything.
And where do you feel we stand, societies in general, where do you feel we stand now when it comes to dementia, and what needs to change soon, urgently?
I think we stand ever so slightly closer to getting it right than we did when I first started writing about my mother. I'm not a healthcare professional and I'm not a politician, and I don't have these kind of specific answers. All I know is that the answer must lie within individualizing care. We have to change the way that we have medicalized old age, really. We still have thought that old age can be a collection of symptoms that you can just sort of sort and then send people away. It doesn't work like that. There's too many different things going on, and the brain particularly has to be dealt with in a way that takes account of what an individual person can do. And what I would say more than anything else is, when it comes to dementia, remember how much people can do rather than just what they can't.
As a person who has experienced dementia very closely, you with your mother, what would you say to people who are going through the same thing now with a family member? Is there one piece of advice that you would give them?
Talk about it. Don't keep it bottled up. Talk about this. Don't be ashamed of it. Don't be shy of asking for help. Remember that there are lots and lots of other people who are in the same position. And, well, this is more than one thing, but cherish what you've got. Know that although you may feel that you are losing this person that you love, and in a sort of a way you are also you're also in a position to savor every little bit of happiness along the way.